The 2024 Lok Sabha elections are around the corner. 543 constituencies spread across the length and breadth of India will vote in 7 phases starting 19th April. Nearly 97 crore people are eligible to cast their vote this time in what is the world's largest democratic exercise. Campaigns of political parties are on in full swing. Expect a grueling and bitter campaign going forward. It is amidst all this that a familiar topic is in the news again. Electronic voting machines, or EVMs, the machine at the very heart of the voting process in India. As polling nears, the debate has reignited once again on social media, among activists, politicians, and it has even reached the Supreme Court again. The larger question being this: are EVMs reliable? Can EVMs be tampered with? Do EVMs ensure a free and fair election, a metric so important for a democracy? Hello and welcome to Simply Put. I am Shubham Chohan. Let's get started. So this week, the Supreme Court issued a notice to the Election Commission of India. This was following a writ petition filed in the court. The plea has sought a cross-verification of EVMs with VVPAT slips, or voter verified paper audit trail. VVPATs is basically an independent system attached to the EVM, where once you press a button on the EVM for the candidate you want, you can see a paper slip generated by the VVPAT on the side. There you can see the party and candidate you voted for. Essentially, VVPATs help the voter verify if their vote has been recorded correctly. On counting day, the current practice is verifying only 5 EVMs randomly selected in each parliamentary constituencies with VVPATs. Here are some figures. Out of 24 lakh VVPAT machines, the petition says slips of only about 20,000 VVPATs are verified. Now, the plea calls for all VVPAT slips to be tallied. This is to eliminate any doubt or discrepancy on VVPATs or EVMs. The question is, how will this be done given the scale of voting in India? The petition says if more personnel is deployed for counting, then this process can be done in 5 to 6 hours. Reports say the matter is likely to come up in the apex court in a couple of weeks. Which brings us to the next question. What is the big deal with EVMs? Are they really unreliable in itself? Because mind you, this is not the first time such a matter has gone to court. In May 2019, the Supreme Court rejected a similar petition that sought 100% matching of VVPATs with EVMs. The court had said then that only 2 days were left to counting and that the country should be allowed to form a government. Before that, in a separate ruling, the apex court ordered the physical verification of EVM-VVPAT counts in 2% polling booths per constituency. Even outside the court, questions have been raised from time to time on the authenticity of the voting process. So let's take this one by one. What are EVMs and how did we reach here? You see, when independent India began having elections in 1952, it was done through ballot papers. Basically, there were separate boxes for each candidate and the voter would drop the ballot into their preferred candidate's box. But this system had some major flaws, like many votes becoming invalid due to improper marking. Then there was booth capturing, where goons stuffed these boxes forcefully with fake ballots, and the process of counting votes was extremely time-consuming. And then came electronic voting machines, or EVMs. Now, the idea of EVMs were conceived in the 1970s, but it was only in the 2004 Lok Sabha elections where EVMs were used in all 543 constituencies. The process of voting via EVMs is fairly simple and more efficient compared to ballots. The device has a list of candidates with their party and symbol. The voter presses the button next to the candidate of their choice. Then, a red light illuminates when a voter selects a particular candidate, followed by a beep validating that a vote has been cast. The only way to access the number of votes stored in each EVM is to break open the seal which keeps each EVM secure. And this seal can only be broken by an election commission official in the presence of representatives of all candidates. But then there were some doubts raised on whether the vote cast in the EVM actually went to the desired candidate, especially when certain politicians claim that whatever button the voter presses, vote will go to only one candidate or party.
मैं भाई साहब, आप नोटा पे डालो मैं ही जीतूंगा, आप गाड़ी पे कार पे डालो मैं ही जीतूंगा, आप हाथ पे डालो जीतेगा तो कमली, हम आपके बेनिफिट के लिए आएगा तो इतना दो, आएगा तो मोदी.
Now that didn't help the trust factor on EVMs. So then came VVPATs, or the Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail. It was used for the first time in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections. The idea of VVPATs was to increase the credibility and transparency of EVMs, like a layer of surety for the voter to know that the vote they cast on the EVM device was actually recorded correctly. Now, it's important to know that a lot of this noise around EVMs is not new, like I said previously, especially from politicians. You often hear this chatter, particularly when a party or candidate loses an election. In 2010, BJP's GVL Narasimha Rao authored a book called Democracy at Risk: Can We Trust Our EVMs? Then party president Nitin Gadkari released this book. This book came out after the BJP lost the 2009 general elections. Then in 2023, former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Digvijay Singh claimed any machine with a chip can be hacked. This claim was made after the Congress party lost the state elections. And in fact, even now, the Congress and several opposition parties have been at the forefront of calling for more transparency into the voting system. Which brings us to the final question. Can EVMs really be hacked or tampered? So there are two sides to this. One side says that EVMs are secure and foolproof, like Dr. Pranoy Roy, who in his book The Verdict listed reasons for the same. First, Indian EVMs cannot be hacked because they aren't connected to the internet or have any Bluetooth or Wi-Fi capability. As for manipulating it to suit a particular party, theoretically that setting could be done at the manufacturing stage. But then it's impossible to predict beforehand which EVM will go to which constituency and which candidate's name will be placed where on the device. So that too is ruled out. Then there's the other side to this debate. While many agree hacking an EVM is highly unlikely, tampering an EVM is possible at a more technical level.
EVM has three components. One is a ballot unit, the second is a control unit, and the third is the VVPAT. Earlier, the Election Commission had never disclosed any technical details. But since we started saying that, okay, if we have to live with these three components, there is no reason why the VVPAT should talk to the control unit. The ballot unit should talk to both control unit and VVPAT and send the same signal, copy of the same signal, whichever the voter presses, the key value, to both control unit to save and for VVPAT to print the receipt. Now, the moment we said that, for the first time on 30th of December and followed immediately on the 30th of January, followed on 7th of February, the EVM came up. The Election Commission came up with a new FAQ where they said that this is a master and slave arrangement where control unit is the master of both these. So naturally, we can't now technically argue that the VVPAT should not connect to control unit. The problem is control unit and ballot unit are local. They're locally agnostic, which means the location agnostic means it doesn't matter to them where they are located. They could be in Pune, in Mumbai, in Jamshedpur, in Jammu, or in Trivandrum, or in Cochin. It doesn't matter. They have absolutely, it is irrelevant to them. They only register the value of the button that is pressed. Whereas VVPAT is locally aware. Just 10 to 15 days before the actual election happens, after the list is finalized, using something called as a symbol loading unit, the authorized people from Election Commission go to every constituency and download the list of candidates with their order in which they are going to appear on the ballot unit. And then they upload this data in the VVPAT. So this makes two things, this violates two things. One is that now you can't say that all the time the entire EVM is never connected to internet, because the symbol loading unit via a computer which is not in the secure custody chain of the Election Commission, that computer connects to the web server of the Election Commission. They download the data on the computer, copy it in the symbol loading unit, and the symbol loading unit now connects to the VVPAT. So indirectly, the VVPAT, which is a part of the EVM, gets connected to the internet for whatever time. Now, the data that goes in is locally aware. It's local data. So VVPAT is very much aware of the order in which the candidates of that constituency appear. Who's the first, who's the second, who's the third, etc., etc. So you can't say the same thing about VVPAT as you can claim that control unit and ballot unit are location agnostic. VVPAT is not. VVPAT has a program which matches the number that the control unit passes to it. Let's say it passes number 3, then it matches that number 3 with the list that it has and prints that symbol and the name of the. So it has a program which is again locally aware.
Now it's important to note another point here, that the EVM is a machine. So like any other machine, the EVM too is prone to glitches or malfunctions. As per an RTI reply, in the run-up to the 2019 polls, there were concerns raised over a relatively high rate of EVM paths failing during the initial checks. Reports say the EC has a range of about 5% for breakdown. But once EVMs with candidates' name and symbols were dispatched to the states, this figure actually went up to as high as 30%. A high rate of malfunction can hamper the overall polling process. Then in 2019, there were reports of a mismatch in the EVM count in more than 370 constituencies. Basically, the difference in the number of votes polled and the number of votes counted. As reported by the Quint, in Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu, there was a surplus of more than 18,000 votes. In Dharmapuri, a surplus of more than 17,000 votes. In Mathura, a surplus of more than 9,000 votes. Some experts believe 100% verification of VVPAT slips and EVMs could put all of this to rest. The Election Commission, however, in 2023 told the Supreme Court that counting all VVPAT slips would essentially mean going back to the ballot papers era. And now, as we approach another polling season in 2024, this matter is expected to generate a lot of buzz, especially during the next 2 months in campaign and what happens in the Supreme Court. That's all we have for this episode of Simply Put. Do let us know what you think of the EVM debate in the comments. Also like and share the video, share it as much as possible. And of course, subscribe to HW News English. Thanks for watching.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.